I have no idea what happened there. But we're live. I know I'm here. I know I'm there. Sorry guys. How how are don't we just love it when things go like completely awry here on the NonnaBoss continuum? Isn't that great? Okay, I think I figured out what I did wrong. So if y'all don't mind, we're gonna try this intro one more time. Thanks for being patient, guys. Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to the NonnaBoss Continuum. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week. Wow, that was a fun start to the show. That was great, guys. Totally rookie mistake on my part, but you know what? It's okay. We get to learn, right? We always get to learn. I just want to thank everybody for being here. I've got Gary. I've got Jane's in the house. Dina's in the house. Carol's in the house. Hey, Val. Val. Thank you, Dina. Thank you. Thank you for loving my intro. I actually made a new, thank you, Carol. I made a new intro and a new outro. Apparently, my previous intro and my outros had a piece of music in there that they were hitting me with a copyright claim, even though the program I already paid for the music. I was still getting hit for that. So now that I am monetized, or a portion of being monetized with the super chats and super thanks and all of that, and the channel now has a membership option as well with different levels. I got to be careful, guys. We have to super be careful. It's why now I've had to kind of step up my game a little bit as far as paying attention to language and subject matters and certain, we got to be a little more PG rated here than we used to be. So I don't want to lose something that I got. And I feel like a huge blessing, getting access and that availability to me sooner than I ever thought I would ever imagine to get. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Jane. I appreciate it. So, hey, Danny, greetings from, you're in South Carolina, but greetings from South Florida. So thanks for being here. Hey, Bobby, thanks for coming in. You guys, I have a treat for you. And hey, Rob. Rob, you have to look back in a little bit and see my rookie mistake. It was fun. But we roll with it here. So that's how it goes. So I have a treat for you guys today. This gentleman is amazing. I have actually known him for just a little bit now. Probably a year, maybe. And the funny thing is, guys, I had no idea that he's like an experiencer of so many different types of like phenomena, and like we just started talking, and I holy cow, I had no clue. So let me give him an amazing introduction, and we will get this show rolling. So today we have Mr. Richard Laudenslager. He is a truth seeker, ET and paranormal experiencer, and investigator who's also interested in cryptid research. He's had alien encounters, high strangeness, and paranormal experiences since he was a child, and he has continued throughout his life. He's investigated as some of the most amazing and famous locations around the country, including the Conjuring House and the South Pittsburgh Hospital. He's also an author of a book titled Southern Swamp and Ruins, 21 Haunted Tales. I'm sorry, I can't read today. That is an anthology of short stories, and he's currently working on his second book. Richard has also appeared on Tony Merkle's The Confessionals Podcast. You can check that out. His episode is number 237. And so I'm so happy to have him here. Rick, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank
you.
It
was a rocky start, but we're going to we're going to overcome this, right?
That's when most of my interviews start.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
Thank you.
And this is your very first kind of like YouTube podcast kind of thing that you've done, right?
Yeah, this is the first live and anything that showed my face. I mean, generally they don't want to see my face.
Oh, so. You have a nice face, so don't worry about that. I know there's people think that, right? They're like, oh no, I don't want to see my face. Trust me. Everybody, we understand when people want to have that anonymity. I can't talk today. I can't read today. I can't press the correct buttons today. I don't know.
It can only get better from here.
Yeah. But I do understand that, how people do, want to keep themselves, obscure their voice or hide their face. I understand that. But, we love it, though. We love being able to, like, put the face with the story and the encounter. And we get to see, the emotion that people go through when they actually talk about their encounters. So
yeah, and I'm at an age where I don't really care what people think. So right. Some of my friends that don't believe in this stuff watch me or hear my stories, I could care less. They're my stories. I've experienced them. So
exactly. So let's talk about, because we have a lot to unpack today. We really do. Like, there's so many different experiences that you have had. There have been, you've had everything. I mean, you really have had a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just make sure that we just kind of hit a little bit of everything. So can you tell us just, what got you even into strange stuff, paranormal stuff, cryptid stuff? What really was the pivotal point for you that said, I want to do this?
I mean, the interest really started in high school, because I used to go to the library a lot, and I found a set of books in the library, and if I remember correctly, it was called Monsters and Mythical Beasts. And it was a 13-book series, and it went everything from angels to zombies. And there was a book about everything. So I got really enthralled by that and used to read that a lot. And it really steered me. It introduced me to there being many more things in this world than what I thought there were that were strange. I'd heard of Bigfoot. I'd heard of Loch Ness Monster and stuff like that, but those books introduced me to upright walking canids in Michigan, and ghosts and demons, and every other little thing around that people were seeing. But I also grew up with a fear, a very palatable fear of the dark and of being alone, and I always kind of related that back to my brother, actually, because he was mean to me when I was a kid. You know, and we were 10 years apart, and he used to terrorize me basically and take every chance he could to scare me. So I always thought I was scared of the dark, scared of stuff because of that. But as I got older, I really started to realize there was more there. There were things that happened to me, things I always thought of as just a story or a dream or something that happened, that I really didn't make the connections to until much later in life. And I just one day, I think I was watching one of the ghost hunting shows. It may have been Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi, and I saw an ad for a paranormal experience where you could go somewhere and do an investigation with paranormal celebrities. So I signed up for it and went, me and my daughter, and then I got hooked after that. And really that one experience took away all that fear of the dark and of being alone. Actually going and getting into a haunted location and walking around that location in pitch dark, just me and her, looking for evidence, just kind of stripped that fear away. And then I just continued after that with mass events, and then eventually moving into doing private investigations.
Yeah. So when you, so now the private investigations that you're doing, that's when we're talking about, like, you've got, well, let's just choose one. Let's choose one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the most famous one. Let's talk about the Conjuring house. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I got, I had made a connection with Stacy Brown, who's known for his, the footage he and his father caught a Bigfoot, and Stacy's into everything paranormal, cryptid. And I'd made a connection with him about 2 years ago through Instagram, and went on my first Bigfoot expedition with him. And we stayed in touch, and he invited me to go with his group, Outcast Paranormal, to the Conjuring house for a week. And that's, that's an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So I agreed to go, and we went up there, and yeah, I mean, where do you want to start with that? That is a life-changing experience going to that place.
Yeah. Really, I have heard Stacy say, make comments that, like, it was, you guys kind of tested, or shall I say, not necessarily just tested, you guys not only tested waters, you guys, you were like, okay, well, we're not supposed to do that. Okay, we're doing it. Like, like that's kind of, that's people, I don't know, man. Like, here's an example. If I go down to see Robert the Doll, I'll be asking permission to do you know what I mean? Like, I will not be breaking the rules like that. I'm not a rule breaker that way. I don't need any extra stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't need it. I don't need it.
Well, and the thing about those guys is, up until that point, I was doing
Rob, I appreciate that. It's so sweet for that super chat. Thank you.
I was doing the normal kind of investigative things you do if you watch Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventurers. But those guys really push the boundaries and do experiments. We don't really do, it's an investigation, but we're trying different things, and things that are not seen on television. One of the first things we did when we got there was buried a guy alive, and do an SD session. So he was buried, about 2.5, 3, 4 feet underground in a box with a ghost box and a set of headphones and a camera inside on him. And then at the same time, we stuck RPG in a well inside the house, lowered him into a well, same situation. And then we set up, Stacy and some other people were set up in the library of the Conjuring house and asking questions. And these 2 ghost boxes these guys were listening to, they were blurting out whatever they were receiving from those, from the ghost box while we were asking the questions.
Okay.
So that was day one.
That was day one.
And that's probably the tamest thing we did. Okay,
let me see if I've got this straight. It was Yeah, Val, I'm with you, my love. That would have been a nope times two. Yeah, yeah, for me too. I did. Okay, I don't. Okay. So you guys had somebody literally buried
Hmm. In the
with a
backyard.
ghost box, and then you
Hmm.
had RPG down in a well
Right.
at the same time with a ghost
Hmm.
box.
Yep. And then,
Oh,
like I said, we had a setup in the
oh my
library
gosh.
where the questions were being asked, and then we were monitoring the responses from these two guys. Now, of course, they couldn't hear each other, and they couldn't hear the questions that were being asked.
Wow.
Yeah,
Are we going to
and
see those results in one of Outcast's like upcoming?
yeah, that
Okay,
with any luck, the Conjuring House film should come out in October.
wonderful, wonderful. So I won't
Yeah.
ask how. I mean, first of all, that's pushing the boundaries. I love that you guys, or
Mm,
that those boundaries got pushed. Right. I love that.
right.
So I can't wait to see how that actually takes place. Like that's wow. Um,
Yeah.
and that was day one. Holy
Yeah,
cow!
that was
You were
day.
there how many days?
We were there 5 days. We got there on a Monday morning and we stayed until Friday. And yeah, that was day one. And then that evening we were filming we brought a group of people in that they didn't have any idea. First of all, they were going to the Conjuring House, and we brought a group of people in to walk around the house in the dark and do a few things. And I was one of the cameramen, backup cameraman. Our main cameraman was following them. I was kind of hanging behind, and I was standing next to a door. There's the main house, which is the old house, and there's a small section that was added on later. I think it was actually like a barn or something that they connected to the house, and that was turned into the new living quarters because the people that actually owned the house at the time were living there.
Mm.
And I was standing next to the door that separated the room between those two spaces while we were filming, and all of a sudden the door handle starts jiggling, and I can see light under the door coming from that room, and there's no shadow, so there was no one in there. But yet I'm standing at this door, and the door handle's just going just really loud. And
Oh my
that was,
gosh.
again, same day. It was just, there was activity in that house. No matter what you did, you experienced something.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anybody could go to that location and then not experience something. You know
Right.
what I mean?
If
Like, wow.
Yeah, if
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, if you go there and you don't experience something, then there's something wrong with you, I think. Because nobody came away from that house without multiple experiences. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you just want me to keep going with it, I can tell you about the
Sure.
experiments we did.
Yeah.
We've talked about the World Gate experiment, which
Yes, let's talk about that.
yeah, the World Gate, that was a gentleman that besides Outcast Paranormal, there were a couple other people involved in this project, and some of them are from other, have been involved in other shows. And Jay Prather is the gentleman that created the World Gate experiment, and the World Gate experiment is drawn from, I think originally it had its roots in Nazi Germany, and then it was taken over by the CIA after World War II. And it's an experiment to try to open portals using frequencies to tune your brain to a frequency where you could astral travel and see things. So that was on Wednesday night. No, yeah, Wednesday night. No, I'm sorry, Tuesday night. That was the second day we set up to do the first World Gate experiment. There's a lot of things involved in this. There's numerology, because not everybody there could do the experiment. It had to do with your birthday, and
Oh, really?
all kinds of stuff. Yeah, in the area. Lucky me, I was one of the main people. So I was put at the I forget what Jay called it, but it's a point. It was the main
Thank
point
you.
because you put 5 people in kind of a almost like a pentagram type location. So the 5 pointed star. And I was at the lead point for whatever reason because of my age, my birthday, and all this stuff. And that experiment, I was skeptical because astral travel, that kind of stuff, it's not something that, it's not that I don't believe in it. It's just that I've never had those experiences. So I didn't, in portals, I didn't think anything would come of it. I was more freaked out by the fact I was going to be sitting in one of the bedrooms of the Conjuring house by myself in complete darkness. So that, had some anxiety itself. But long story short, when this experiment takes about I think it's 47 minutes, and there's a countdown to it. You get in place. You're seated, or you're laying down. You have blindfold on. You have headphones on, and this I think it's 4 hertz or 4 megahertz frequency is being played. So and you're concentrating and trying to kind of meditate to put your mind into this. Put your mind into this state. And right away, when this experiment started, I was seeing things. Now I've got a blindfold on and I have headphones on and my eyes are closed, but I'm seeing images like I'm looking through my eyes, but there's like a border. So it's like I'm looking at a screen kind of. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I saw was like a planet or a moon. It kind of looked like one of these moons. I think it's either Saturn or Jupiter. That almost looks like the Death Star. Then there were little lights and things like that. I saw that. And then I started seeing this. It was almost like a dirt road with snow and fences. And there were these big white dogs that were jumping back and forth and running back and forth. And it's literally like I'm watching a movie. I've tried to visualize like this before and unable to do it. But in this state, I was able to visualize different things, and I wasn't trying to conjure these images. This is just the stuff that was coming to me.
Right.
And for the most part, that first world gate, I won't say it wasn't, I'm trying to figure out the right word to say. It didn't freak me out once it started. I wasn't seeing anything that freaked me out. I experienced this like image from the day before when we were digging the hole. I experienced that like I was actually doing it to the point where I felt like I was digging the hole while I was sitting there.
Wow.
And the scenes would change. Sometimes it would be a green pasture or like a path through a green pasture. And then I would see lightning or flashes of light and stuff. And again, I'm blindfolded, so I'm not seeing anything from outside of where I'm at. And I even went into a point where it felt like, I don't know if I wouldn't say I dozed off, but like I blacked out for maybe 15, 20 minutes because there was like a dead spot. And I don't remember anything from that. It just seemed like the experiment didn't last as long as it should have lasted. Because when you come out of it, the voice that comes in and changes and telling you, you're coming out of the experience. So the visualization part of it and all that is what was really interesting about the first one. And it really got me psyched up to do the second experiment, which I was hyped about that. Well, my second experiment was completely different and almost terrifying. We had changed some parameters for it. And one thing we introduced to the second experiment, this was done 2 nights later, we introduced rocks from the property. So everybody was given a rock from the property. Now, the thing about the Conjuring house is everybody thinks the house is haunted, but really the prevailing theory is that the land is cursed because there's places around the Conjuring house, around that property, other houses that have things happen too. So immediately when that second World Gate started 2 days later, it started out very dark. I was immediately hearing voices, and I thought they had changed the soundtrack. So I'm hearing like whispering and talking in my ears. I started out seeing these 2 triangular faces with glowing eyes kind of coming out of the mist, like out of a dark mist.
Wow.
And then after those disappeared, I saw that same fenced area where I saw the dogs before, but there were no dogs. There was nothing was there. And then all of a sudden I was looking at the room like I was looking at the room without blindfold on. I could see the entire room in darkness, and there were all these shadows shooting back and forth across in front of me. And I could see the outline of the bed. I could see the outline of the dresser. I could see the outline of the window, but it was complete darkness. And there were all these shadows moving around and all this whispering and talking going on. So immediately I connected that to that rock, and I let go of the rock. As soon as I let go of the rock, my vision changed back to that green path, like I was on this green path. And then it started up again. And I started seeing that room again, but like it was further away. And then there were 2 little girls huddled in the room, like in night dresses, like from, 100 years ago or whatever. And I'm hearing the noises. I'm hearing the chatter, the talking. So I picked the rock back up because I dropped it into the cup holder and I threw it on the bed. As soon as I threw it on the bed, I was back in that green pasture, and I could tell that there was a little boy next to me, and I was holding his hand. And I looked over and I said, "Did you do that?" And he said, "I had to." So all the darkness, all the chatter, everything had gone away. It was like somebody had led me away from it. And that didn't last very long because he was gone. But after that, I was seeing the room again, but there were no shadows. It was just the dark room. But at the end of the room, there was lightning like flashing through the window. And then it was like the wall disappeared. And I could see the tree line outside, and there was a pyramid shape, like a mountain, but also like a pyramid between the trees that I could see, and lightning on top of it. It was just really weird. Wow. But all this was like I was looking through my eyes without blinders on into a dark room. Wow. But it freaked me out so bad that when the experiment ended, I went down the steps and stormed out the door looking for Jay, because I thought he had changed the track. I thought he had done something. Little did I know, as soon as I walked out the door, the guys that were on the first floor heard a woman moan in the room I was in. They heard a woman's voice, like a groan or a moan, as soon as I went out the door. So they shot up the stairs, and they could hear that moaning. It moved through the house from that room into the next bedroom, and then into the third bedroom down on the end. And then they heard it coming from this area called the birthing closet, which was I guess an area where the midwives would help the women give birth. And they threw that door open in there and put the camera in. They heard like a moan or a scream, and then it stopped.
Wow.
At that point, I was outside confronting Jay. Jay's not a big guy, and
Yeah, you are though. You are. He must have been. He must have been like, whoa, like
yeah, he's
you're a big guy.
he's like, man, I didn't do anything. I swear, I didn't change
Right.
anything. Everything was the same.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
Krista from Blondes and Blues Paranormal Podcast, she does a lot of investigations. Actually, she just did several investigations this weekend back to back. But she has a question. Do you know the story, or do you know if the story of Bathsheba is true at the Conjuring house?
what we were told about that is that it's not confirmed. Let's put it that way.
What is the story she's talking about?
If I'm not mistaken, is that the witch story about the witch that was hung? Is that the one? Because there's a tree there where they claim a witch was hung. And if that's the story, I was told that was not true. I think that's from the movie, if I'm not mistaken. And to be fair, I've never seen the movie. When I found out we were going, I purposely did not want to watch the movie because I didn't want to have any preconceived ideas about the house. I knew about Annabelle. I knew about that sort of stuff. I knew about the things that people talk about, the seance and all that sort of thing. But that part I was told was not true. Now the house, there is a lot of stuff that happened in that house, and apparently there was a woman that hung herself in the barn, and this was creepy because apparently at some point they used to have a daycare or something in the basement of that place, and there was an old cabinet down there. There was an old cabinet down in the basement where kids had drawn pictures inside the cabinet, and one of the pictures was of a woman with her head sideways and a rope coming up from her neck in like a kid's, scrawling of like a stick figure. And apparently the kids used to see her walk back and forth in that basement.
Wow. There's there's so many things, because I know I've heard like, that literally it's for, like a Skinwalker ranch. Like it's the grounds. It's because it's got this, it has a cemetery. It's got cryptids. It's got a little bit of everything there.
And from the owners at the time, the house had actually just been sold right before we got there, but the previous owners were still on the property. And, so they talked about some of their experiences and stuff. And they were the ones that were saying, they believe it's the grounds are cursed. And it's because there was a major pre-colonial war battle fought there. And there was a lot of death on that property, and there's supposedly a lot of bodies buried on that property. Now that house, actually, they began constructing it in the late 1600s. So that house has been around in some way, shape, or form since the late 1600s. And I guess it was, maybe even acted as a field hospital or something when this battle was going on. And supposedly there's, I think it's 8 or 9 British soldiers that are buried around the foundation of the house. And, not to mention countless others maybe who might be buried in that area.
Wow.
So they've had everything from UFO activity there, cryptid sightings, all sorts of stuff. There's even an old stone circle on the property right next to the house. And no telling how old that is, but it's like now it wasn't anything like where the stones are sticking up really high out of the ground. They were on the ground, maybe, a couple feet out of the dirt, but It was almost a perfect circle within 30, 40 feet of the house.
Wow. Wow. It's still such an amazing experience. Like, some of us will, probably never get an opportunity to go to such an amazing, you know what I mean? Like, spot, like, for an
Yeah.
investigation, like, excuse me, guys, my allergies. Okay. So, all right, so that's the Conjuring house. So we talked about the World's Gate. Let's talk about the South Pittsburgh Hospital, the investigation that you did there. So let's talk a little bit about that investigation. And can you just give us a little bit of a setup regarding the location? I am not as familiar with this location as some other ones. So
yeah, it's not a huge hospital, and if I'm remembering right, as far as what the original purpose of it was, I can't remember whether it was an insane asylum type place or not, or a tuberculosis hospital. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've been there. But this was another one of those mass events where, you probably had 100 people or so there. And then you had paranormal celebrities there that were kind of leading some of the investigations. But with most of these places, once you get the lay of the place, you can kind of branch out on your own and do some things. The biggest things that happened to us there were, my daughter goes on a lot of these adventures with me, and I really didn't make the connection until that particular event that she's kind of sensitive to emotion. So it would, empathic, if that's what you want to call it. Because the very first thing we were experiencing there was John Zaffis was doing a ghost box session. And this was an amazing session because he was getting direct responses from this ghost box to questions. And you could tell that the responses he was getting were kind of tortured, in that whoever was giving them, it was like they were having a hard time with these answers. There was something going on.
wow.
And I was kind of caught up in it, listening to it. And all of a sudden I noticed my daughter just she tapped me on the shoulder or something and then took off out of the room. So, I went out there after her. Well, she was bawling. She was out in the hallway outside of this room bawling because she was picking up on that energy from this person doing this session, that they were sad and they were scared, and she was just crying. I mean, she had to be consoled. There were a couple other people there who were, kind of, I guess, tuned in to what was going on with her. And I was still kind of clueless at this point. I'm, like, I don't understand why you're crying. Yeah, it was sad, but she was actually tuning into that emotion. So later on in that evening, we were in another part of the hospital where there is supposed to be a dark entity. And there was a paranormal team doing a laser grid show, a laser grid investigation inside this room. And there were these two ladies outside of the room, and nobody said anything. I started to go through the door, opened up the door, and one of them yelled at me and said, "Hey, don't interrupt you." I said, "Well, I didn't know they were doing that." All of a sudden, my daughter just goes off. I mean, and I'm not going to use the language she used, but there were threats. I had to physically grab her and take her out of there because she was ready to fight. And
so this is absolutely complete. So this is like totally off script, completely outside of her character. Yep. Absolutely not like her at all. So you're thinking maybe then it's more of she was influenced by something.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what I think was going on. Because as soon as I got her outside, it was like it all went away. And she was like, "I don't know why. I have no idea why I got so angry. I don't know what happened." And I feel like that's what it was. I feel like the energy in that place was so strong that it was physically affecting her. And I've
Wow.
talked to someone since then that I've come to know recently who has told me they've had similar experiences there, and that is the case. That
Wow.
the
So
energy
that's
there
very
comes from people.
consistent. Be like to have people on a tour
Hmm.
to exhibit and have these kind of issues. Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting.
Now, as far as evidence, what I picked up there, I only picked up one EVP, and it wasn't anything conclusive. Um, that was more actual experience with what happened than with any kind of evidence I picked up.
Hmm. Wow. So what is your oh let's try let's I have two questions. So what is the piece of evidence that you because you sent me like some audio, you sent me
Hmm.
some photos that we're definitely gonna share with everybody. What's your favorite piece of evidence and why?
I think my favorite piece of evidence is that EVP I sent you from
Okay.
Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Oh my gosh, that's every
Yeah,
time I hear that name, I just go, I don't know if that's the place I want to like actually go and investigate, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't
That
know.
that was the first place I investigated and where I got the most evidence that I collected. Now,
Okay.
take the Conjuring house out of the equation, because there's so much stuff there besides the World Gate. We did seance, we did other experiments. There was a Ouija
Wow.
board session. There was all kinds of stuff that went on there, and there was a lot that happened there. But as far as a pure investigation of
Hmm.
a place, Trans Allegheny has yielded the most evidence for me. And I've only been there once. My daughter's been there twice, and the second time that she went with some friends, they had the same experience. They picked up, EVPs. They had a flashlight session that they did where they had direct
Wow.
responses, and had all sorts of stuff happen that second time too. But that EVP for that EVP for me is the best evidence
Okay.
of a disembodied voice, I think, that I could have.
All right. So let's see if I can play this. All right. So let's see. I'm just going to put, guess I could put you and I. All right. I have to figure out how to share this thing here. Okay. Share.
Hmm.
That's video file. I think I have to hit share screen. So hold on. Have to minimize that. Hang on. Bear with me, everybody. My apologies. I have to go. Having a Mac that you're not actually used to using. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta go to, I think it's window. No. Share to video. Okay, I think it's this one. And okay, hold on. Oh my gosh, I don't know why it's not popping up for me.
And my advice to anybody that wants to investigate those places, it's nice to do the mass events, but most of them you can rent for a night. And if you can get 10 people together, you might come out of pocket $120 to $150 a person, and it's really worth it to be able to go in there with unrestricted access and go where you want to go.
And then you're like And so yeah, if you're yeah, because I know a lot of people do that. A lot of people
Mhm.
will do kind of go in together and everybody chips in, you know. I know a lot of people do that. Okay. Hold on. I do not know why I'm not able to find this. And I downloaded this. So it's like, I know it's here. I'm just trying to find it. I may have to, let's see. Let's see if I can. Guys, I am really sorry. I will. This is super weird. Hold on. I'm going to find it. We're not leaving until this show, until we literally find it. Hold on. I know it's here. And I'm going to go here. Open file. Maybe it's that way. Yes. Ha ha ha. Okay. But why is it now telling me to do that? I don't know. All right. Well, hold on. Oh my gosh. I'm so afraid to click this link. I'm back.
I wasn't sure what happened there.
I don't even know what happened there. I'm like, what happened? All right, we're going to try this one more time. It's not going to work for me, guys. I am sorry. Holy cow. Why can't I get it to play? Krista, you're going to have to help me. Won't be today. May not be today. My God. That's okay, Rick, because you know what? Here's the thing. You can come back anytime you want to, and we will make sure that we know next time.
Yeah.
We'll figure
It
it
is
out.
a good clip. Maybe you can just put a link to it or something.
Yeah, I can do that. I can certainly do that. I can maybe put it in the description or something, or link to it in the description. We can do that for sure. Damn
And
it.
that's the thing about that being our first investigation, we didn't know what to expect. And we had two physical things happen there. One, we were in an area called, and that's a huge place. It's about 240,000 square feet under roof. And
That's big.
not knowing what to expect, I thought, we were going to have to stay with a guide. But as soon as the guide showed us around, they let us go and do our own thing. So one of the first things that happened to us was in the Civil War room. I was fought, and I had terrible equipment at the time, but I did have a camera on my daughter when this happened. And the Civil War room is an area with it. I think they used as a hospital. Anyway, it's a big open room with columns about every 25 feet. And there's nothing in there. And we're walking through that room. It's just us. And I hear something crash on the floor. Well, I see my daughter jerk and move, and I hear something crash on the floor. And what had happened was a piece of tile about the size of a $50 had been launched across the room and hit her in the shin, and then went down and hit the floor.
Wow.
And I do have that on video. You can hear it. You can see her jerk. You can hear the thing hitting the floor, but there was nobody in that room, and this thing came with purpose horizontally across the room and struck her. And then the other physical thing that happened was in the violent men's ward. We were in the room at the end of the hall, and I started to walk out of the room, and I felt something tug my shirt like that. And I stopped immediately to make sure there was nothing there. Yeah, it was almost like something just grabbed it, like they were trying to stop me. And it was it was a tug hard enough that I felt it. And there was nothing in the room. We were in the middle of the room. There's no cobwebs. There's nothing hanging down, nothing that could have snagged my shirt. So that was the only two physical things. Everything else that we caught, which were EVPs, we didn't know about until after we got home and actually listened to it. And besides the one that I sent you, there was another one where toward the end of the night, we were in a room and I was just, I was just kind of playing around. And I said, if you, would you like me to jump out that window? Well, when I played that question back, I got an answer that was a very snaky, hissy sounding yes, right after I said that. Like me to jump out that window? Yes. And that creeped my daughter out because I that was the first EVP I found, and I geared it up for her and left it for her. She was staying with me at the time and I wasn't there, and she played it and it freaked her out so bad she slept with the lights on that night.
Let me tell you, the night that I heard like the creepiest, I don't really want to call it an EVP because it really wasn't an EVP. It was because I heard it like a couple of times, like in real time. And Matt got, it happened, ended up actually catching it happening 11 times is actually the audio we had. It happened 11 times. And it was at the Tatum house at Crowley. Have you been to Tatum House? The Tatum House?
Is that the one at
it's at the Crowley Museum.
I've never been there. No, I want to go.
Yeah, that I've had some very strange, crazy things happen to me there at that place. But yeah, that it was a disembodied voice, but it's this creepy like moan, right? It's this like
yeah.
And it's like it's answering like we're inside the house. Stacy was literally outside the house asking the questions.
Yeah. Yep.
And for every single answer or question he asked, that's the only answer that happened. It was this moan, this creepy moan. And let me tell you, when I heard it, like I heard it audibly, like, 2-3 times in real time, but hearing it back, that's crazy. And it's so scary when you hear it back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see the question about, has anything ever followed me home? And,
yes,
that has not happened. I make it a point. One thing is to not take anything with me from those places, like that piece of tile that hit my daughter at Trans-Allegheny. We left it there. Where I was most afraid of that was at the Conjuring house because the guys I went there with like to play jokes. And that, like I said, I was so freaked out over that second world gate and those rocks. A couple of them decided they were going to take the rocks home with them. I checked my luggage before I left there to make sure those guys had not stuck one of those rocks in my luggage.
You're like, I'm not taking, I know y'all, and I ain't taking no
exactly.
chances.
And they hadn't.
I love it.
But the owner had told us a story about, because, they were living in that house. And it's right there on the road, and people know it's the house, the Conjuring house. Okay, it's not the same house that was in the movie, because the house in the movie was a prop for the movie.
Right.
But people would stop there and try to come on the property and stuff, and they're living there. Well, one night, apparently somebody had stopped at the road and taken a rock from the stone fence around the front of the property. And that night, they got an email from the woman saying that she had taken a rock from the house and there was something in her house causing havoc, and she wanted to know what to do. So they got it the next morning and they told her, they said, you just need to bring it back. And they never heard from her again. But I had heard that story, and I was freaked out. I said, no, I am not taking anything from this place, and I'm not taking anything from any place that I visit.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a really good lesson, right? I mean, we have to be super careful about stuff like that, and not to do things like that. Like you have to
and I think it's important too, just to be firm in your convictions that that's not welcome either. It's not welcome to follow you. It's not welcome to harm you. There's a lot of strength in belief. And there's a lot of power in belief. and like I said before, I'm not sensitive to this sort of thing. I kind of rely on my daughter for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had, like I said, we had a lot of crazy experiences at Trans-Allegheny. And we all, we've been to a couple other places too. And I've been to places where I didn't get any evidence. I didn't get any EVPs. I didn't get anything happen there. But to me, that's as much evidence as getting something, because it lends credence to the actual EVPs you do get, that's really something going on. Because if you take audio everywhere and you find EVPs, you can't get something everywhere.
Right.
It just, you're not actually hearing what you think you're hearing, maybe, or you're picking up some kind of interference. I think that one I sent you is clear, and I've had several people, tell me it's a Class A EVP. Most people hear exactly what I hear. And then you have some, I've had some where I picked up stuff I could not tell what it was saying.
Right.
So I wouldn't even share it, because if you can't get a word out of it, or if the word or whatever you think it is doesn't apply to, the situation, then it doesn't make any sense.
So let's talk about some of these photos that you sent me.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are pretty interesting. So this is one of the photos that you sent me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are actually photos that my daughter took. And the story behind this is she had a cousin who had a bunch of huskies, and she was working for an pet adoption coordinator and pet rescue. And he had a couple of the huskies had gotten into a fight, and one of them had killed another one. And for days after that, the dogs were acting up. So he was talking to her about it. She had convinced him to adopt them out. So she went there to take pictures of the dogs to start the adoption process. Well, she took about 20 or 30 pictures, but there were 4 that when she downloaded them had this strange mist in them. And 2 of them, you can see it right there, the outline of a dog. And it even appears like the other dogs are reacting to it.
Uh-huh.
And it was a clear night. It was a cool night. And this was a digital camera. There was nothing. She could see nothing physically when she took the pictures. But like I said, there were these 4 that had this strange mist in them. And 2 of them is very much the shape of a dog.
It's wild. I mean, this is a really cool one too.
Yeah, this is interesting too, because it's almost like individual columns of mist.
Yeah.
And I've had different people say different things. And this one's interesting, but the other one where those columns are at, the dogs are howling, and they're like looking up in the mist and howling. And that's just freaky how they're reacting to it.
Yeah. I mean, they're really, really like, you can tell that they're reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on one second. Let me go to the next one. It's this one, I think. This one. This is the one where they're like literally. It's like they're seeing something and they are reacting. And yeah.
It's really wild. And she had taken them and she went home to look at them that night, and then came over to my house and showed them to me. And this was quite a while. This was after we had gone to Trans-Allegheny. So this is probably 2011, 2012, sometime in that time frame that this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really just another one of those things that kind of, I guess spurred that interest even more in the paranormal and doing investigations and things like that.
I know. It's crazy. All right. We've got one more. I think I have one more, right? I think so. Hold on. I'm getting there. Sorry, guys. All right. Yep. There's one more.
Yeah,
Now
that one's.
this is my
Okay.
favorite, actually.
Yeah. It's very interesting because you can, depending on how you look at it, you can see part of the, the misty, the ghost-like dog's legs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they're interacting again with each other. It's very wild.
Yep. Yeah. These are pretty cool. They were really, really, really good. Really good photos.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't like I've seen some really interesting photos. But I personally I don't really have any personal me personally, I don't have any like paranormal kind of photos for me. But cryptid, I have, I have some cryptid photos. But
Okay.
so
And
let's
see, I don't have that. So that I envy you there, because that's really the experience I want to have, is to
let's
see a
get
cryptid,
into
see a
that.
Bigfoot.
Let's get
I don't know
into
about the
that.
rest of
So
the cryptids, but Bigfoot I do want to see.
yeah, yeah. And what are the tell me what your thoughts are. I know a lot of people tend to believe that your your intention, what your intention is, sets kind of the tone as to whether you may or may not have any kind of an encounter of some sort or a sighting. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe there's something to that. I believe that once you've opened, because I believe you have to be open to experiences to have experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you begin to have the experiences, you open yourself up to more things now. But I believe that can also go awry, to where you get to the point to where you invite things in, and that's definitely not the route you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
When I did the other show, when I did the Confessionals, Tony named the show "Seeking the Paranormal," which is true in a sense, but my original journey with this was to solve an issue, and that issue being afraid, was to get rid of that fear. Then it morphed into wanting to understand. And I think getting into listening to podcasts, listening to a bunch of different theories on things, it's really opened my eyes to the fact that this world is so much crazier than what any of us can really understand.
Yeah.
And that you have to be very careful when dealing with these things, whether it's cryptids, paranormal, supernatural, aliens, whatever. You have to be careful not to make yourself a victim or open to letting them in. You got to figure out how to keep that guard up while trying to investigate and collect evidence and that sort of thing. So I'm very, very careful about that, and
Right.
just trying to figure out ways to protect myself. I mean, even to the point where when we were going to the Conjuring house, I was thinking about making a salt belt. Because the ring of salt is supposed to, be good for keeping things out. I was thinking about getting a plastic tube and filling it with salt and wearing it to keep
That
something.
actually sounds like a really good. I wonder if that would work. I mean, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I
something
like
I may
that.
try on another investigation. We have some other things that may happen in some places that scare me more than the Conjuring house. So I may need to do something like that.
Yeah, I
But
know.
I think
Like,
the other thing is too, just um, the I'm going to Penhurst I guess it's a week from tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
on a private investigation I was invited on. And the person I'm going with she's a medium and a shaman and a psychic. So she uses a lot of protection type prayers and things like that before entering these sort of places. So, kind of employ that sort of thing too, is to just ask for protection from anything harmful, and
Right.
to not take anything with us when we leave. I think
Right.
that's where people run into issues with even ghost box sessions, but especially Ouija board sessions, is there's a process to that sort of thing, because you're opening a door for communication, but you need to close that door. And if you don't close that door, if you did call something out, then that something has to go somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. The dangers of that. You can put up all the protections in the world sometimes, right? Like we can try. You just never know, like if what you're going to come up against or what you're going to encounter, what type of entity or whatever, like you just don't know. And all the protections in the world, excuse me, they don't, there can still be something that can get through your protection. So
yeah. Oh yeah, that's true.
it happens. Yep. It happens. Yeah. So do you have any advice though, as to like maybe one of the things that's worked for you in the past? Like, what do you?
I mean, again, it goes back to your belief system. If you're, I'm not a super religious person in the fact that, I'm not what you would call someone that follows traditional Christian beliefs, but my daughter did give me a rosary when I went to the Conjuring house, and I kept that with me. Now, I don't know if that had anything to do with shielding me. Like I said, during that second World Gate, I had some kind of intervention. I really, truly believe I had some kind of intervention to take me away from whatever was dark that I was dealing with. And, I really didn't get into it, but like I said, the first one was so interesting that I was looking forward to the second one. The second one terrified me, but what I didn't talk about is between that, we had done a seance the night before, which I believe stirred up something. And that seance, coupled with the fact that I didn't find this out until after the fact, while I'm doing my World Gate, RPG was in the room behind me doing a ghost box session. So we had the stirred up activity with the seance, which so much freaky stuff happened during that seance. It was scary. And then everything after that, it was so active in that house. I think that and what was going on behind me is what stirred up the darkness, because I actually saw a shadow during that seance shoot across the room. And this all happened in 2 seconds. I saw the shadow dart across the room, cross the light, and move to the left into the living room. The front door to the Conjuring house swung open. The guy sitting, and I don't want to say who it was, sitting to my left at the head of the table, doubled over and started to get sick. And the woman upstairs who was staring into a mirror screamed. That all happened in 2 seconds.
Wow.
During that seance. And he had to run out of the house and puke. And we stopped the seance at that point, but only temporarily until he got it back together, because we needed to close it out. Going back to that closing out the seance, closing it out like anything else. But there, the stuff I didn't realize, one, the guy running the seance was a Luciferian. Had no idea he was. And I asked him what that meant, and I'm not sure how it varies from a Satanist, but anyway, I think Luciferians believe Satan is good, whereas Satanists believe, Satan is bad, or know he's bad or whatever.
Well,
So yeah.
Gary Spikes wants to know, did anyone get any scratches or any marks or anything like that while they were there?
I do not think so. I don't think anyone had anything physical happen to them there. As far as like scratches or marks.
Yeah.
Not that I can remember. Yeah. Now, just everything is mostly noises and like I said, that, the stuff that happened during the World Gate, but there were a lot of, during that whole seance, I watched the door behind me was creaking open slowly. There were shadows shooting around the room. The door to the library was creaking open slowly, and all this stuff was filmed, and all of it's going to be in this film when we put it out. But somebody did actually get possessed to a degree during that seance, to the point where they were slamming their head down on the table and involuntarily knocking things over and putting their hand in a candle flame.
Wow.
So that was freaky to watch.
Wow. Sounds like you guys had
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of, that is crazy. So,
one thing that place did reaffirm for me, I thought that I was completely over being afraid of being alone in the dark, but that place made me rethink that. And I give credit to people like Stacy and Ryan and those other guys who were not afraid to go into the basement alone or into certain places alone. And it takes a lot of guts to go into a place with that much activity by yourself and be in a spot. It really does.
Yeah. It's, I don't know if I could do it. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I could do some of that stuff, be a part of those kind of things, like, or I don't know, maybe I would, if I wasn't at the Conjuring house, maybe I would feel more comfortable doing those kind of things in a different kind of area or a different type of space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I guess you just don't know. Like, there's so many different things I want to try personally. I really want to try the God helmet. Like, I really want to do that so bad. I'm so like I really want to try that, So I guess it's all just relative to whatever it is we're willing to do. And everybody has different, hey, I'll go here, but I won't go there. Or I'll try this, but I won't try that. You know what I mean?
Well, even though my experience, I had two completely different experiences with the World Gate, I want to do a third one. And we're trying to figure that out, to get together and do a third one sometime. And I'd recommend it to anyone that's really interested in seeing what they can see. And I don't know if it's a residual effect of that or not, because I've tried to visualize the way I was able to see things in that experiment since then. And it hasn't happened for me except one time. And that was after I went to Waverly Hills. We rented that place for an evening, and actually somebody I know rented it and invited me, and I got part of the team together that went to the Conjuring house, and we went there for an evening doing investigation. And it was after I left there, I was so exhausted, got home and started to go to sleep. And when I closed my eyes, I was having that same kind of visualization I was having with the World Gate, except I was seeing the halls of Waverly Hills Sanitarium, and I was seeing all these patients in gowns and these people in like pants and white shirts walking around, but like in spirit type form, with my eyes closed. And I was trying to make it go away because I wanted to go to sleep. I was tired, and I kept seeing this. And finally, I just employed a tactic I'd heard on a show where I just started thinking white light cleansing, wash this away.
Right.
Power of good, wash this away. And eventually it went away.
Wow.
And I went to sleep, and it hasn't happened since then. So I'm curious to see what happens after I go to Pennhurst. See if I have another experience like that. See if this is something that's, where I can have that experience after going into a haunted place, because we didn't experience a lot at Waverly on the outside, or didn't pick up anything really substantial in our recordings and stuff. But that experience afterwards made me think we were there, we were in something was going on around us. We just couldn't pick it up for whatever reason.
Well, after you come back, after your trip at Pennhurst, you're going to have to come back and give us an update.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If we get something,
and definitely update us, and we can, hopefully you'll have maybe some photos or audio you can share with us. I'm going to definitely try and put the link to your audio. I'm going to figure it out. I know somebody's got to be able to help me do that. Put that in the description so you guys can check it out. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
And I need to have you back again. Trust me, there's going to be a part 2. I promise you.
All right. Yeah.
Because we didn't even unpack. We've already gone an hour and a half, and we haven't even unpacked a third of your stuff and things that you've experienced. So
yeah,
you got to come back for sure. Okay.
Right. Definitely. I'd like that.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to put you backstage. Just hold there for me for a few minutes while I just say good night and start good afternoon and bye to everybody. So thank you again. Thank you so much. Hey everybody. Thank you guys so much. Wasn't Rick amazing? I can't wait for him to come back. I'm going to figure out how to get that link in the description. So if anybody knows how to help me with that, please reach out. I'd greatly appreciate it. I just want to, again, thank you, everybody. And I want to make sure that I definitely thank you, Rob, for that super sticker. Thank you so much. And also thank you, Midwest Night Watchers, Daryl and Jane. Thank you guys so much for that as well. So generous. Don't forget, guys, we do have a membership on my channel now. So definitely, if you want to check out that, I'd really appreciate, any support for my channel. And it just means a lot. It really means a lot, the support that I get from you guys in more ways than one. And I just want to, let's see. So this week we've got, I've already posted the shows for the next few weeks, what's coming up. So make sure you guys check out the upcoming shows. I've got RPG coming on. We're going to talk all things fun about Gatlinburg and the Gatlinburg Conference. And Krista and Brandy are going to join me on that episode. I have Les Durant that's coming up this week. We're going to be talking about secret bases. Then I also have on the 18th, you guys are going to have so much fun and enjoy the episode with Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research Group. They are going to be here with me on the 17th. So we are going to have the next few shows are going to be just a lot of fun. So I want you guys to definitely, if you haven't hit that subscription bell, please do so and turn all of your notifications on. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will catch you guys Tuesday night. Tomorrow night. I'm sorry. Tomorrow night, it's Les Durant. So I will see you guys tomorrow night at 9:00.